Hello, this is the first episode of CapCAN Knows, the official podcast of the Capital Area College Access Network. You might be familiar with our newsletter articles of the same name. We are excited to try something new to engage the community in conversations about college access. I am your host, Jacob Tkaczyk, an AmeriCorps Vista serving with the Capital Area College Access Network, or CapCAN for short. Today I'd like to introduce you to Michele Strasz, the Executive Director of the Capital Area College Access Network. Thank you for being here with us today, Michele. So the first question I have to ask you is, what is the role of a college access network?
Hi, Jake. Thanks for having me on today. So the role of the Capital Area College Access Network is to advocate for increased college attainment in our community, particularly among low-income, first-generation, and students of color. Our board of directors is made up of a very diverse group of stakeholders, from business, education, K-12, philanthropy, nonprofits, and the government. Annually, we review our college attainment data and we determine what priorities we want to address as our community. Then we go to work to invest our time, energy, and resources to create programs or services that support student readiness, access, retention, and empowerment. Much of the work that we do is focused on supporting the network of college advisors that are deployed in 12 of our high schools in Eaton and Ingham counties. We support them financially with professional development, and we assist them in carrying out our school-based activities like applications and FAFSA completion.
Well, it sounds like CapCAN does a lot for the community. But another question I want to ask you, just so we can clear it up for anybody who's listening, is how do we, CapCAN, define college?
So we define college very broadly. We refer to it as any type of post-secondary degree or credential from an accredited institution. This means that it could be a vocational program, a technical program where you might earn a professional certificate or a license, as well as the traditional 2-year and 4-year degree programs.
Well, thank you for clearing that up with us. I just wanted to touch on something that was recently announced, and that is that the Ingham-Eaton County College Access Networks have been recently integrated. What can you tell us about this merger?
So about 2 years ago, our friends and colleagues in Eaton County decided to form a college access network. They went through a very extensive process with surveys, interviews, focus groups, and meetings of key stakeholders. They determined that they did want to focus on college attainment. However, the capacity of our region to sustain a third independent CAN was limited by funding and many leaders who were already active in one of the other two college access networks. The Eaton leadership team decided that integrating with CapCAN made the sense to leverage resources and infrastructure. So last year we had a joint work group between our two leadership teams that developed a new governance structure, bylaws, and our common agenda, which is the shared goals and objectives of a college access network. In May, both of our leadership teams voted to merge, and 5 Eaton representatives were elected to our board. Eaton will continue to maintain a local action team to focus on the unique needs of their schools and students and hold one another accountable to move the needle on college access.
Well, it does sound exciting to finally bring that partnership together. Are there any other upcoming events that you are very excited about? And either by CapCAN or by any other organizations that you'd be willing to share with us today?
So October is College Month across the state of Michigan. We participate with the Michigan College Access Network to celebrate students becoming more engaged in their post-secondary planning and walking through the different steps to complete, including filling out applications in the financial aid FAFSA form. So we'll be out at all of our schools assisting with those applications and FAFSA. We'll also be supporting our friends at Lansing Community College as they host a college fair for the community with over 60 other colleges and universities. We encourage all of our parents and students to come out and walk around the college fair to explore their options and opportunities and make sure that students ask good questions regarding the types of majors and programs that they might be interested in pursuing after high school.
Wow, it does seem like that you're going to be pretty busy over the next couple of months. And what I hope the listeners do realize is that all these events that we're helping out or putting on with, and is that it's important, is that we're doing it for the students in the area. And so I would like to ask you, what would you like the students to know about the importance of college?
So college is important because post-secondary education is obtainable for all students. We know that kids have a lot of barriers to them continuing their education beyond high school. You might have financial restrictions, maybe you have a learning disability, or maybe you're first generation and student and you just don't know how to navigate the process. But we are here in the community to be able to assist you to try and address those barriers. Secondly, college is necessary to achieve your goals of getting a job and building a sustainable life for yourself. We know in our community that 70% of the jobs will require some form of degree or credential, and it's important for all high school students to graduate and to succeed in achieving some type of education for the careers that they will have in the next few years, but we also want them to be prepared for careers that might not yet be invented. For example, when I went to college, there wasn't such a thing as graphic design. Well, now, of course, there's a huge industry around graphic design. With all the new technology, certainly in artificial intelligence, there will be lots and lots of new jobs that will be created that we haven't even envisioned yet, and we want students to have that education to be flexible and nimble and be able to problem solve for whatever comes next.
Well, Michelle, thank you so much for that insight. In my conversations with relatives of mine anyway, it's always amazing to see the looks on their faces when we do talk about those jobs that have emerged in the past 15 to 10 years, considering that most of my relatives worked in the plants and didn't tend to go right into education. And then it really just shows that kind of the evolution throughout the generations as the years go on. And I just want to talk about reaching adults really quick, if that is okay. Outside of the podcast as well, we've been talking about reaching out to young adults as well as students with regards to college access. Could you explain what the Pathway to Potential initiative is?
So Pathway to Potential is a new initiative that we've developed in response to the fact that there are many, many young adults who have not continued their education beyond high school and may not be employed or certainly underemployed. I often tell people in the community that even if we got 100% of our high school graduates to go on and get a college degree in our community, there still wouldn't be enough adults in the talent pipeline to meet the workforce needs of our employers. Currently, only 48% of adults in Ingham and 38% of adults in Eaton have at least an associate's degree. We know that there are about 7% of young adults up to age 25 that are neither in college or working. So 2 years ago, we received a pilot grant from the Capital Region Community Foundation and the GM Foundation, and then we were able to receive a second year of funding from the GM Foundation to continue our Pathway to Potential program. We have assigned a college and career coach that only works with young adults. He provides one-on-one assistance to them. He does an assessment. He helps them to develop a plan and then works with them to carry out the steps within their plan. We are currently working to do some outreach to engage young adults in the community, and we're working with our community partners at groups like Michigan Works, Peckham, Stepping Up Together at LCC, and other GED programs to refer young people who need or qualify for our services or additional services in the community. We want any young person that is just struggling to figure out what to do next to know that whenever they're ready to drop back in, that we will be there to assist them in navigating the process to continue their education and ultimately to find a job and a career.
Well, having personally seen the work that the Pathway to Potential initiative has done and what it hopes to achieve in the future, I can say that it's pretty inspiring to have a organization willing and wanting to work with these young adults who appear to be disconnected. And I think that's very important. As you mentioned the term talent pipeline earlier, I think that's really important to get these often gifted people who are just not applying themselves, or have unfortunately had those roadblocks stop them from achieving more. And I really think that is an awesome thing that CapCAN is doing. So a little taken away less from specifically the pathway to potential, I would like to talk to you about you for a minute, if that's okay. Do you have a favorite memory while working for CapCAN that you'd be willing to share with us today?
So I have lots of stories and memories about working with CapCAN. I've been here for 4 years now. But one is less of a favorite memory and more of a memory that really touched me. I was very early on in my job able to be a chaperone on a college visit to go out to Olivet College. We were able to include 2 different groups of students from separate high schools. And the night before, I was doing something and I realized I still had some cookie dough that needed to be baked. So I ended up baking those cookies and bringing them with me on the bus that morning. And as I got on and was introducing myself to the students, I was giving each one of them a cookie. And one of the students said to me, "Oh, this is so nice. No one's ever baked me homemade cookies." And I was just so touched by the fact that I connected with her and I did something that was meaningful for her. And I kind of observed her then the rest of the day going on this Olivet college visit. It was the first time she'd ever been on a college visit. And I know when we got back on the bus and I was asking everybody how their day was, she said this was fantastic. So I was just very, very touched that, she felt like this was the right connection. And I don't know that she went on to Olivet, but it certainly opened up lots of opportunities for her and to stay connected with the work that we do. So one of the things that we do at CapCAN is assist the college advisors when they organize FAFSA completion afternoons or evenings with students or with families. I happened to be over at Sexton High School in Lansing one day assisting with FAFSA, and one of the college advisors asked me to come over and answer a question for a student who was really struggling with which parent to identify as the person that he would connect his tax information to complete the FAFSA. And one of the, challenges of working with low-income students in particular is trying to figure out, what the best way for them is to reflect in the FAFSA form the financial situation that their family is in. So anyway, this student proceeded to basically tell me a little bit about his life story. His dad was not around. His mom was in jail. He was living with his grandmother, not in a formal legal guardianship situation, and he just didn't know how to document, the adult in his life and their tax status in order to be able to be qualified for financial aid from the federal government. And we managed to figure out that we could work with the counselor to document that and provide that as verification, but yet he really could be an independent student. So he would be eligible for a lot of financial assistance because he was essentially on his own, even though he was living with his grandmother. But it, always strikes me when we're working with these students that they have to sometimes tell us a lot of personal information, and we need to be really sensitive to the conditions and factors that are going on in their life. And that, I had just met this young man, and he basically had to bare his soul to me for a few minutes. And it's important for us as adults who are working with these young people to understand that there's so much more going on in their lives, and there are lots of challenges and barriers potentially to them going to college. But if that we can model, what to do, number one, but also be respectful and supportive of them, that they can actually achieve what they set out to achieve. And of course, we know that besides the federal financial aid, we have a lot of resources for low-income students through our tuition assistance program, and then other local scholarships. We maintain a great scholarship list in this community to be able to share with the students so that they don't have to feel that finances are a barrier for college.
Well, thank you again so much, Michele, for sharing those stories. I think getting to see how these young people respond to the support and the encouragement that the good folks in College Access give them is really incredible at times. And it is important that you mentioned not to be sensitive and, to have that sort of trust, and that, sometimes it's just those connections that people need. Unfortunately, it looks like that we're running out of time today. One last thing, Michele, if that's okay with you. In our newsletter articles, as you know, we always end with CapCAN knows. So what do you know that you would like to share with the community around us?
I'm Michele Strasz, and I know that we need to model to all students that college is possible and accessible to them. This means that adults who work with or mentor students need a shared vocabulary to talk about college and financial aid. We can train you to do this, and we also need to create a college and career-going culture where we invest the resources into exploration activities like college visits, college fairs, work-based learning opportunities, so that young people can figure out what their why is and achieve what is possible in their life.
So before we end our podcast for the day, I would like to remind everybody about the Lansing Community College Night coming up soon. It's this upcoming October 18th. It's a Thursday from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. It is free to attend for all and has a lot of great resources for students, teachers, and other interested persons. You can also follow us at the Capital Area College Access Network at our social media pages. You can find us on Facebook at Capital Area College Access Network. You can also follow us on Twitter at Capital Area CAN. So once again on Twitter, that's Capital Area CAN. And you can also follow us on our Instagram page, where you can find us at CapCAN _. So that's a CAPCAN with an underscore at the end, all one word. And we post pictures, articles, things that we're reading, news updates, and we even will sometimes even retweet or repost students or our partners who work with us. So if you'd like to stay in the know with us, make sure you please follow us on our social media accounts. Our next episode of the podcast will feature our friend and colleague Jeff Dole, the head coach of this CapCAN's Pathway to Potential initiative. So be sure not to miss it if you're at all interested on the Pathway to Potential initiative that Michele and I were talking about a little bit earlier on in the cast. So once again, I want to thank you all for listening and tuning in to sit down with Michele and I. I want to thank Michele for sitting down with me as well and for helping to greenlight this podcast. So once again, thank you guys so much. My name is Jacob Tkachik, and I'll see you around.